Slanesh hallows your essence.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Art of Save Scumming. Today we are talking about Dechala the Denied One, the new Slanesh legendary lord and faction coming with Tides of Torment here shortly. This is going to be my campaign showcase. I have played many campaigns as Dechala across several different tester builds, and I can confidently say that she plays completely different than any other faction in this game. And I'll put it to you like this. She has 3 different resources, 3 different settlement types. And I'm going to jump into everything that she can do here in this video. She starts out about right here in this 4-settlement province just at the south of Cathay. Think Balsar Gelt over here. And Nakai starts like right in there type thing. Right above Ending Kresh, right? They haven't turned on right quite yet. And you also start out at war with some minor greenskins that you have to wipe out, and you have several sea lanes accessibility that allows you to export a fair amount of war. You guys know me, I love campaigns where we can export war with impunity. It's the American in me. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. We love exporting war. So we have 3 different settlement types. The Thrall Camp, the Tormentor Hold, and the Pleasure Palace. We're going to start out with the Thrall Camp, and this is where we get thralls, among other places, but thralls. Each of the settlements that are of the type Thrall Camp has a number here, and you can also see it on screen here. That is your regional thrall population. Your goal with these settlement types is to take that thrall population and convert it into the other resources. So you want to take these thralls and you want to turn them into your global thrall population or money. And you do that with your different building types. So this will start out at a number when you occupy it, and then it will degrade over time. So if we get in here and look at what's going on inside of a thrall camp, 3 different tiers. We have a defensive building that also does control. This building is the same thing that it always does. This one increases the rate at which you burn through those thralls by converting them into global population. This one slows it down by decreasing the cost of those, as well as providing growth and casualty replenishment. And then this one increases the rate of burning through those thralls, but it converts them to money. If we hop over to our, I will say, think about this as purely economic. So if we were to go over to this settlement, or this province down here, it has 3 Tormentor holds in it. And I cannot recruit in this province. You need one of the other settlement types to be able to gain access to military units as Dechala. And there are reasons that you would do something like this. For instance, these resources can only be accessed from a thrall camp. Moving on to the Tormentor Hold. This is your military recruitment building, but settlement. But I would also say that this is, think basic military. So if we hop in here, we have a port, three tiers, just like every other minor settlement. Basic cavalry, basic infantry, semi-advanced infantry. So like this is where you're going to get your exalted demonettes at, for instance. We also have defensive structures here that increase the output of those thrall camps that we talked about earlier. Same building does the same thing in both settlements types. This one does your increase of your income from buildings from your pleasure palaces. So ideally you want big provinces with a lot of those buildings in them to maximize your pleasure palaces, that we'll get to here in a second. And then this one increases the global bonuses of all of your armies. So think like Khorne and their settlements, what they do with some of their global bonus buildings. Small global bonuses built by a structure that stack. And then from here, we go to pleasure palaces, and this is your hubs. These are your big baddies. These are your most important settlements, and you have a finite number of build slots. You cannot build all of these buildings in a single pleasure palace. You're going to need multiple of them to gain access to them. And this is where you're going to get most of your heroes. This is where you're going to get your advanced military. There is some good income in here. I will say that 1,200 off of that building, and then there's another one that does 400 there. So there's a lot going on in these pleasure palaces, and you build pleasure palaces. You build all the rest of the stuff in those other settlements with cash. You build everything in pleasure palaces with thralls. So you must have thralls to spend to be able to build these buildings. In order to build a new pleasure palace, you must reach tier 3 on your previous pleasure palace, and you start with the capacity to build 1 pleasure palace. And you can see that up here denoted. We have currently available to construct 1 pleasure palace. We still have the pleasurable axe in all of our provinces, so that still exists. We still have the proliferate cults capacity, but you are going to be using a fair amount of these for these buildings, so you're going to be doing this less than you would be in other Slaanesh campaigns. The other thing that the Pleasure Palace does for you is build Decadence. So that's where you get your Decadence from. If we go back in here and look, all of these buildings, this one I don't think does, it does 30 Decadence, but all the rest of these, well, not this one down here, it maxes out at 12, but all the ones that go up to tier 5 max out at 15 Decadence, and 4, I think, across the board is 12. Yeah, you see how that all works? So you are producing your third resource from this. Well, what do you use that third resource for? We all implicitly understand what we use the thralls for, outside of that needing it to be explained for the Pleasure Palace buildings, but thralls are used for this and various other Slaanesh related stuff. Well, if we go into our Tormentor's Tributes, this is where you use Decadence. So Decadence can be used 3 different ways in this campaign. Think of these ones over here, the Marks of Vindictiveness. Think of these as banners that you can add before battle. So you purchase this, you can upgrade this to 3 different tiers, and this is something that you add to a unit or a character pre-battle. And this is an enhancement. So like, let's see, if I click on this one, you can see what some of these do. For instance, I'll give you a couple of them. Yeah, we'll go through all of them. Right? Okay. Marks of Vindictiveness. Resplendent Offerings, excuse me. Think of these as like enchanted items, character experience gain, unit experience, immune to diplomatic penalties when trespassing, campaign movement range, that sort of stuff, right? So these are not as expensive, 50 and 250 to upgrade. These are 500. And then down here we have some like global stuff. Like the first one that I usually get is this one, and it increases across the board income from all buildings 15%. It's going to cost you 1,000 Decadence to get that. So you can see how you're going to use your Decadence throughout the campaign. This panel right here is how that is used.
Satisfaction awaits there. I see.
Something real quick that I wanted to mention. If you occupy a settlement as a thrall camp, it can be converted to either a Tormentor hold or a Pleasure Palace down the road. They do not go the opposite direction. Continuing with the trend of the Mortal Chaos Legendary Lords and the Monogod factions, Dechala does not have access to unholy manifestations. Think Tamarcon, Arbal the Undefeated, they don't have access to unholy manifestations. She doesn't either. But she does have access to the cult mechanic. So there is that. And she has some of her own unique mechanics as far as like movement and stuff like that is concerned. So if we go to her army, we have the Boons of Slaanesh. This one for 125 thralls, character experience gain, unit experience gain, 225 ambush success chance plus 50%, stock for the army, and then this one 350 armor piercing weapons damage plus 4, Lord's Army, passive ability Wayfarer for the Lord's Army. So there are the Boons of Slaanesh. And as far as her battle mechanic is concerned, it's a little bit different than what you're used to. Usually when you go to a Slaaneshi Lord, you're talking about seducing units. Well, if we hop in here, we don't actually seduce units, we corrupt units. So instead of taking these units over to my army, and then like when I'm done with them, they go back to this army, it's just a debuff. So if we were to click on, say, this Feral Stegodon, for instance, if I were to corrupt this unit, its melee defense would go down by 20, its missile strength would go down by 25, speed would go down by 25%, weapon strength minus 25%, leadership minus 33%, and melee attack minus 20%. So it cripples that unit. And also, what I would say is if you compare it to like the cost of seducing units, it is considerably cheaper to seduce or to corrupt a unit than it is to seduce a unit. So usually, especially in the early stages of the campaign with like Nakari or the Mask, you're talking about seducing maybe 3 or 4 trash tier units, or maybe 1 good unit you might be able to afford. But for the most part, you're talking about chaff units. Yeah, I can debuff. I have the money to debuff the Stegodon, the Croxagore. All these are 400, so I would probably do the Feral Cold Ones. Or no, those are Cold One Riders, excuse me. And maybe this, you know what, probably the Saurus with the shields, probably. And you could debuff all those units for 2,000. If I was talking about corrupting those units, which would absolutely take them out of the army, then that's like 6,000 or 7,000 favor to be able to do that. So yeah, definitely cheaper to do this, but you also don't get the use of those units. You're just simply crippling those units.
Wanton abandon.
One of the other things that I was unable to get unlocked for this video because the build changed between when I started filming this video and or started working on this video and when I was actually able to do the actual record, is she has this demonic attraction. Think not regiments of renown, but think like state troops for the Empire, for instance. You click on this and you get this by researching all this demonic attraction. So you have to get all these tiles and then you can do demonic attraction, and it allows demonic attraction recruitment. And so if you look in here, for instance, you got some exalted demonettes, exalted seeker chariots, heart seekers, pleasure seekers. So these are instant recruit demonic units that you have access to. Limited pool, obviously, but yeah, I mean, being able to just recruit 4 heart seekers or pleasure seekers, 4 heart seekers, massive battle power.
Dechala, the sweep of blood.
My pleasure. Slaanesh, hear my call.
And then lastly, I have 2 more things that I want to show you. First is the legendary hero, Steercar. And you get him basically by performing an agent action and then killing so many enemies in combat. But if we go into his skill tree, you can see he is here for the purposes of buffing your Marauders. So this reduces the upkeep of Marauder units. And then across the board here, he kind of does stuff to make you want to use more of them. He also has a campaign movement range somewhere in here. Campaign movement range right there. So he is a melee combatant. He also has an explosive ability, but think of him as, hey, how can we get a second army up and running and make it cost effective? That's what he's there to do for the most part. And then I want to go into Decala's skill tree herself. We did a battle showcase so you could see, but one of the things that I did not expressly state that you probably could have figured out is that she could actually hold 2 weapons. So you can put any 2 weapons that you want in there, and she also gets a talisman and an enchanted item as well as armor. She's not a caster, but you can kit her out with 2 different weapon effects if you want to. She does have 1 quest item. I find this quest item to be, I mean, get it. The battle is kind of cool, but as far as the item itself, control's good, casually from post-battle loop, cool. The rest of the effects and the actual active effect, it's cool to be able to terror route units that aren't usually able to do that, but when you play on Legendary like I do, you're still doing very little of this. And then her individual skills. If we look in here, standard red line, standard blue line, standard yellow line, but her personal line. We have campaign movement range / corruption wayfarer. We have enables poison attacks and enables eroding poison attacks for marauder type units and hell scourges, or hell striders, excuse me, and chariot units. And then arm piercing weapon damage. Dagger Dance, this is one of her mutually exclusives. I did a battle showcase on her. She starts out with 2 mutually exclusive battle powers. This one adds a 3rd. It also adds melee defense and unyielding assault. Attribute immune to contact effects for those units again. Melee defense, melee attack. You guys get the picture. We're going to skip this one for a second. We're going to go over this one. Casualties captured post-battle. Upkeep for non-demonic units. Enemy leadership and passive ability rage for all non-demonic units. And this one, vigor loss reduction, charge bonus 25, and whirlwind of pleasure, which is her special attack. Basically, think vortex attack that centers on her, can't move while she's using it, only lasts a couple seconds, but it will completely chew a unit of infantry down to nothing. And then she has a couple more ones up here for, this one's for Champions of Slaanesh, and this one, 360 missile block chance. And the rest of her line looks pretty standard out that way, as you would expect for a Slaaneshi Lord. Anyway, this video has run long enough. If you would like to see a strategery video for Dechala the Denied One, I've done basically every permutation that exists, and I will make that video if you make this one popular. Thanks for tuning into The Art of Save Scumming, and hopefully we'll see another one here pretty soon.
I seek my lord's regard. A killing thirst!
True servant of darkness. The blade surges!
A capricious decision.